The night felt endless, heavy, and unreal, the kind of night where time stops making sense. It was 2 a.m., and I was sitting alone in a small hospital pumping room, staring at blank walls that had seen too many quiet breakdowns. The air smelled sharp with antiseptic mixed with old bitter coffee. The only sound was the steady mechanical hum of the pump, rising and falling like a breath that wasn't quite human. My name is Lauren, and I'm 34. One floor below me, my newborn son Leo was in the NICU, fighting for his life. He had arrived far too early, at just 27 weeks, weighing only 2 pounds and 1 ounce. He was so tiny he looked like a fragile little bird. I was beyond exhausted, shaking with fear, and barely holding myself together. More than anything, I needed my family. My hands trembled as I opened my phone and typed a message into our image-obsessed Boston family group chat. I told them Leo was having a hard night and asked them to pray for him. I stared at the screen, waiting, hoping for comfort, for words, for something human. Minutes later, my phone buzzed. The message was from my Aunt Rebecca, the woman who ruled our family without question. It wasn't a text. It was a photo. She was smiling perfectly in a ball gown, standing on a stage under bright lights, every detail polished. The caption proudly announced how honored she was to represent our family at the Children's Hospital Foundation Gala, followed by hashtags about giving back. That picture wasn't just poor timing or thoughtlessness. It was a message. It summed up my entire life with them. In my family, we weren't just relatives. We were an institution, an old Boston name wrapped in money, tradition, and appearances. Everything revolved around pedigree, public charity, and above all, image. Our lives were managed from the immaculate mahogany-paneled office of the family foundation, and its unofficial CEO was Aunt Rebecca. She was my mother's older sister, and after my mom passed away, Rebecca took control. She wasn't warm or comforting. She was efficient. She guarded the family reputation fiercely, and anything that didn't fit the picture of strength, perfection, and generosity was treated like a problem that needed to be quietly managed. My husband Ryan, an architect, fit perfectly into their world. He was successful, polished, and looked good in a suit. He was approved. My career, however, was a quiet embarrassment. I'm a grant writer, working with struggling nonprofits dealing with addiction, homelessness, and domestic abuse. These were the kinds of problems Rebecca preferred to solve from far away with large checks and glossy press releases, not by actually facing the mess. At family dinners, Rebecca would call me the sensitive one, which was her polite way of saying unstable and disappointing. But my greatest failure in their eyes was my struggle to give them the next heir. Ryan and I had tried for years to have a child. We endured 2 heartbreaking miscarriages. Each time, the family response was cold and clinical, labeling them unfortunate events and private matters, as if my grief was something embarrassing that needed to be hidden. When I finally announced I was pregnant with Leo, Rebecca gave a thin smile and told me to stay calm this time, for the baby's sake. Then Leo was born at 27 weeks through an emergency C-section, and the silence from my family afterward was overwhelming. This was the ultimate failure in their eyes. It was messy and frightening and emotional. Everything our family was never supposed to be. That photo from Rebecca wasn't an accident. It was a statement. She was showing strength and elegance at a gala while I was sitting in a hospital surrounded by fear and weakness. In that moment, I understood completely that I was on my own. Those first weeks stretched into 5 long, agonizing weeks of isolation. My world shrank until it was no bigger than Leo's incubator. The NICU felt like a foreign planet with its own language and rules. I learned to measure life in grams and milliliters. I learned the sounds of the monitors and which alarms meant a brief pause and which meant panic. Leo was impossibly small, his skin thin like paper. I sat beside his incubator for 12 hours a day, reading him books I was supposed to be reading. In his nursery at home, I kept sending updates to the family chat. Leo gained 20 grams. He came off the ventilator and moved to SPAP. My father, Richard, replied with a single thumbs-up emoji. My stepmother, Brenda, said nothing at all. Ryan did everything he could, but he had to return to work to keep our insurance. He came in the evenings exhausted, and we sat quietly by the incubator, holding hands like two ghosts inside a machine. The only real support I had came from strangers. In the pumping room, I met other mothers living the same nightmare. We were tired, broken, and scared, but we found each other. We made our own text group. We celebrated tiny victories and mourned setbacks together. These women, these strangers became my real family. One afternoon, during a rare break, I scrolled through social media and felt the breath leave my body. A cousin had posted a photo. My father, my stepmother, and Rebecca, all of them were laughing and clinking glasses at a Sunday polo match. The caption talked about a wonderful family day. It felt like a punch to the stomach. Their lives were moving forward without pause. Polo matches, dinners, concerts. It was as if my son fighting for his life in a plastic box had never existed. I stopped sending updates. I simply stopped. The pain shifted from fear to confusion and deep hurt. I couldn't understand how people could be so cold, so distant, so cruel. I didn't know then that this was only the beginning. At the end of the 5th week, Leo was stable. In the NICU, stable only meant the emergency wasn't happening at that moment. I was in the hospital cafeteria, stirring a cup of terrible coffee, my eyes burning from lack of sleep. The cafeteria felt like my second home, filled with tired faces and the smell of reheated food. My days had fallen into a numb, painful routine of pumping, driving, waiting, listening, and sleeping in short, broken pieces. Ryan and I barely crossed paths. My family was gone. I pulled out my phone to send Ryan an update, and suddenly everything exploded. The screen lit up with missed calls and messages. 73 missed calls. Dozens of texts, all from my brother Ethan. My heart slammed against my ribs. That wasn't checking in. Something was wrong. My hands shook as I unlocked the phone and opened his last message. It was sent seconds earlier, written in all capital letters, telling me to answer immediately and saying it was Aunt Sharon at Mass General and that it was bad. Aunt Sharon was my mother's other sister, the one Rebecca always pushed aside. The world tilted. I ran out of the cafeteria, leaving my half-eaten sandwich behind, and called him. He answered on the first ring. "Lauren, where have you been?" "I've been calling for hours." His voice was tight, frantic. He's a journalist. He's never frantic. "I'm here." "Ethan, I'm at the hospital." My phone was on silent. "What's wrong? What happened to Aunt Sharon?" There was a heavy pause. The sound of a hospital pass system in the background of his call. "She had a massive stroke this morning," he said, his voice cracking. It's bad, Lauren. They don't know if she's going to make it." I leaned against fuel, the cold tile pressing into my back. "Oh my God. Is this anyone with her?" "Everyone is here," Ethan said. "That's why I'm calling. Everyone's at Mass General. Dad, Brenda, Rebecca, everyone. And look, Dad is asking why you aren't here. He's really hurt. You haven't come." I couldn't process the words. It felt like he was speaking a different language. A bitter, cold laugh just escaped my throat. It sounded like a bark. He's hurt. He's hurt that I'm neither." "Lauren, what?" "Yeah, your aunt is Ethan." I cut him off, my voice dangerously quiet. "Where has he been? Where has any of them been?" "No one has been here for 5 weeks. I have a son in NICU, and not one person has come. Not Dad, not Brenda, not Rebecca, noon, not a call, not a visit, nothing." The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. I could just hear him breathing, processing what he finally said. His voice completely changed. The panic was gone, replaced by a cold, sharp confusion. "What are you talking about? That can't be right. It is Ethan. I've been alone." "But Lauren, Aunt Rebecca told us she's been coordinating meals for you. She said she's been visiting you, sitting with Leo so you could rest. She said she saw you were completely overwhelmed and told a very own you wanted 0 visitors. She said she was handling everything." Ethan came to the NICU the next day. He's a journalist, so he's trained to be skeptical, to dig. But when he stood over Leo's incubator, all of that melted away. I watched him scrub his arms raw for 3 full minutes. Just like the nurses tell you to. He looked terrified to even breathe near his nephew. "Oh, Lauren," he whispered, just looking at this tiny 2LB fighter. He's perfect. I can't believe. He couldn't finish the sentence. He just reached one finger through the porthole of the incubator and gently touched Leo's foot. After a few minutes, I let him tow the gray windowless family room. "I talked to Dad," he said, his voice flattened hard. The journalist was back. "I went to their house last night after leaving Mass General. I asked him point blank. I just waited. It is so much worse than we thought, Lauren." This wasn't just Lauren needed privacy. She went scorched earth. Didn't understand. "What did she do, Ethan?" He ran his hands through his hair. "She told Dad that you were suffering from severe postpartum psychosis. She told him the hospital's doctors were worried about you, that they had advised a total visitor ban for your own mental stability. She told him you were unstable, a danger to yourself and maybe even to Leo." The air left my lungs. It was a physical blow. She said what? "She used your depression after the miscarriages as proof," Ethan continued, his voice thick with disgust. "She told Dad you were fragile and not in your right mind. She convinced him that'd be staying away. He was protecting you. He was following doctor's orders." I saw it all in that horrible clarifying intent. The thumbs up emojis. Thessalance. It wasn't just neglect. It was a lie. A clinical, malicious, calculatedly. She had painted me as a crazy, hysterical new mother to contain the family embarrassment, to keep the perfect family image intact. And in that moment, I finally understood why. It's a classic psychological control tactic. It's called being a narcissistic arc. Rebecca had built her entire identity around being the family center of gravity. She created a hub-and-spoke system where all information had to go through her. By controlling the communication, she controlled the family. She didn't just isolate me. She isolated everyone from me. It wasn't enough for me to be the sensitive one. She had to paint me as the unstable one because that reinforced her own position as the stable, capable matriarch. It wasn't just jealousy. It was a cold, systematic move to maintain power. She was protecting the foundation. The family name. My suffering wasn't a tragedy to her. It was a liability. "She's been gaslighting our entire family for years," Ethan said, as if reading Mimint. I never saw it until now. I looked at my brother and the fog of grief and confusion I'd been in for 5 weeks finally cleared. It was replaced by something cold and hard and sharp. "Set up a call, Ethan," I said. "What?" "Set up a video call with all of them. I want them to see me. I want them to see my son and I want to see her face when I ask her." Ethan set up the call for Thatevening. He used his laptop, setting it up in the small beige family room just outside the NICU doors. My hands were steady. The woman who had cried herself to sleep for 5 weeks was gone. In her place was someone I didn't even recognize. Someone who felt cold, clinical. Ethan hit the call button. A second later, their faces flickered onto the screen. They were all there, crowded into and Sharon's hospital room at Mass General. My father Richard, his face looking 10 years older. My stepmother Brenda, wringing her hands and in the back her arms crossed, was Aunt Rebecca, her expression carefully neutral like a CEO observing a hostile negotiation. "Lauren," my father began, his voice thick and trembling. "Lauren, Ethan told us we had no idea." "First," I said, and my voice was so cold it startled even me. "Look at him." I picked up the laptop and walked a few feet to the large viewing window of the NICU. He angled the camera at the tiny incubator in the corner at the blue Billy lights at the nest of wires. "This is your grandson, Dad. This is Leo. He is 5 weeks old. He weighs 2 lb and 1 ounce. And for 5 weeks, he has fought for his life. Alone. And you believed a lie. You believed I was crazy because it was easier than picking up the phone and calling me yourself." My father's face just crumpled. He put his head in his hands. Brenda was openly sobbing. Beth and Rebecca's voice cut through. Sharp, impatient, and angry. "Lauren, you are being hysterical," she snapped. "This is exactly the kind of drama we were trying to avoid. You were unstable. You are unstable. We were respecting the doctor's wishes." "The doctor's wishes," I said, turning the camera back to my own face. "Or your wishes, Rebecca. You never spoke to a doctor. You never came here. You never made a single call. I was protecting this family. She shot back, her mask of composure finally cracking. Protecting your father from your emotional breakdowns. Someone had to manage the situation. Manage? I almost lied. Is that what you were doing at Children's Hospital Gala? Was that managing the situation? Tell me, how did that picture feel, Rebecca? When you were on that stage, accepting applause for your generosity, I leaned in close to the camera and the entire room went silent. How did it feel knowing my son was on a ventilator just a few miles away? You didn't just lie. You performed. You used my son's crisis as a prop for your reputation. You didn't protect this family. You protected your image. My father looked up, his eyes wide first at me, and then turning slowly to look at Rebecca. The shock on his face wasn't just guilt anymore. It was comprehension. He finally saw her. Rebecca's face for the first time in her life was pale with rage and fear. She had been exposed. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She was silenced, and in that silence, I finally had all the peace I needed. I reached over and ended the call. The aftermath of that call wasn't loud. It was a deafening, heavy silence. The next morning, my father, Richard, and my stepmother, Brenda, were waiting outside the NICU doors. When I arrived, they looked broken. My father, who I had only ever seen in a crisp suit, looked like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were red. Lauren, he started, his voice thick. We came to meet our grandson. There were no excuses, no justifications. Just a deep, profound shame. I nodded once and hauled them to the sink. They scrubbed their arms for 3 full minutes, just like Ethan had. I watched my father, this powerful Boston figure, stand over Leo's incubator. And for the first time, I saw the man, not the image. He was just a grandfather full of regret. He's beautiful, Lauren, Brenda whispered, tears streaming down her face. He's perfect. It wasn't a fix. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. Our relationship will be built on truth from now on. I told them later. Not on image, or it won't be built at all. My father just nodded, his eyes never leaving Leo. After 10 long, grueling weeks, Leo came home. He was still tiny, barely 5 pounds, but he was a fighter. About a week after we got him settled, our apartment intercom buzzed. It was Aunt Rebecca. She hadn't called. She hadn't texted. She just appeared. Lauren, darling, buzz me in. Her voice crackled through the speaker. I have a little something for less trust fund from the foundation. I looked at Ryan, who was holding our sleeping son. I walked to the intercom, my hand steady. We don't need a donation, Rebecca. The silence was immediate. Excuse me. Her voice was sharp, insulted. I am your aunt. I am family. Let me in. I pressed the button one last time, my voice clear and final. No, Rebecca. You are a relation. My family is inside this house. You are not welcome here. I disconnected the call. She buzzed again, and then she was gone. We held Leo's first birthday party in our small apartment. It was loud and messy and full of love. My brother Ethan was there holding Leo up like a trophy. My sideline and Sharon, now recovered and smiling, was telling him stories. My 3 NICU mom friends, the women who had become my sisters in that sterile, terrifying place, were there with their own miracle babies. And me father and Brenda were there. They weren't holding court like they used to. They were just there, present, quiet. My father was on the floor helping Leo unwrap a gift. I looked around at this group, this patchwork of people, and I realized what he had learned. We're all taught that family is an unconditional obligation, that blood is everything. But it's not an obligation. It's a title. It's a title that has to be earned through love and respect and action. Walking away from a toxic blood relation is an act of failure. It's not abandonment. It's a courageous act of self-preservation. It's the moment you finally decide that you and your new little family deserve peace more than you deserve that pain. Have you ever had to redefine what family means to you? Who is your chosen family that showed up when it mattered most? Please share your experiences in the comments below.